Hello, everybody. Daniel. Blah. Hi, everyone. Old Man Belasco here. Today, we are going to make a choir out of my voice using a cassette tape and a cassette tape recorder. And then we are going to mic the built-in speaker, record those into the computer, and make a choir out of me. So let's get started. Like I had said, we're going to use a cassette tape. This is a really shitty Chinese-made cassette tape by a company called Yudong. I bought like boxes and boxes of these a little while ago. They're 46-minute tapes. I was using them for doing stuff, and now I'm not doing that stuff anymore, so we're going to use one of these tapes. So for this, you don't really want to use the best quality tape in the world. What we're going for is like a genuine lo-fi deal. So if you have like some really worn out bullshit tape from like the 80s or the 90s or whatever, some like Sherman tape that you found in a Goodwill or whatever that you can tape over, I would suggest using that. Also, you want to get yourself one of these tape recorders. Well, it doesn't have to be just like this one. This one's from like the 90s sometime. It's a realistic. We've got it loaded with batteries that are mismatched, and hopefully that will give us some wonky power. And it's got that great built-in speaker up at the top there that we're going to mic and record right out of this unit here into the computer. And that will give us more of the characteristics that we're looking for. Alright, so now we're going to record my voice singing notes that we're then going to use to turn into a lo-fi cassette tape choir. Alright. Okay, so I have recorded the sounds from the cassette deck using my microphone, my SM7B, directly into Studio One, and here they all are. I cleaned them up a little bit, edited them so that they are all individual clips. I adjusted the volume of them so they're all kind of the same. I mean, they look fucked up, but you want them to have some sort of dynamics anyways, because that is what preserves any amount of real humanity that they have, despite the fact that they were recorded to a crappy tape on a crappy tape player, and then recorded using the crappy tape player mic, so whatever. The reason why you separate them into individual clips, specifically with the sample one, which is built into Presonus Studio One, I've done it already here, I've got it already set up, but you can highlight them, and you can drag them all in to the sample area here, and it will treat them as individual samples instead of just one long sample. So that's why you separate the individual pieces that you want sampled. You chop them, you know, into individual clips. Similar to what you would do with percussion samples when you wanted to build a drum kit out of a drum loop or something like that. I've gone ahead and mapped all of these to their root notes and mapped them along the whole keyboard so that you can play them like this. Which actually sounds pretty cool, very much like a mellotron, which is essentially what we're doing here, is we're making a mellotron-like instrument using my voice. I've looped all these individual files. Looping is not necessary if you record long enough notes. Like if you sing long enough notes, you could probably get away with playing them in any situation. I just like to have loop points so I can hold on to a note indefinitely. So the next step is to start applying envelopes and effects. So one thing I usually like to do with vocal samples, like choir-like samples, or synth samples where the sample is just sort of a straight waveform with not a lot of pitch variance, I like to use the LFO at a rate of around 6 Hertz with a delay of around 1.5 seconds, or in this case, exactly 6 Hertz and 1.5 seconds, and apply that to the pitch. And we're not talking a lot here. That's too much, you know. Even, you know, half of that is a bit too much for me. I like it to be a little bit more subtle, like... That's nice. That's nice. I'd even bring that down just a little bit more. With Sample 1 XT, you can hold down Shift and you can use the mouse to be a little bit more... to do fine changes instead of, you know, coarse changes. Like, that's okay. Next up is the filter. The filter section in Sample 1 XT is really nice. This is just its default 24 dB ladder filter, low pass ladder filter. It treats the high end of samples really nice. It actually kind of gives stuff like an automatic lo-fi old school sampler kind of sound, because usually with the old school samplers, the hardware samplers, when you would do lower bit rates, the high end was the first thing you started to lose. It also allows you to drive the filter and apply a compression, which they call punch. And I like to use the drive and the punch on drum loops especially, or really percussive sounds, natural or otherwise, because it gives them just a little bit of nastiness, which is nice. And then after that, I already have the settings dialed in for the amp envelope, but we're looking at a 600 millisecond attack and a 1.1 or 1.2 second release, which gives us now our next step is to add some pitch modulation by way of a chorus. Now the built-in chorus in Sample 1 XT is quite nice. I've got it set here at a delay time of 1.1 milliseconds, chorus speed of 0.5. I'm not sure what that is, if that's milliseconds or not. Full width and just over 61% depth. So that gives us not really a huge amount of chorus. I could crank the depth up some more, so it sets us in the stereo field a bit more, but I don't want it to be full stereo. I just want it to eke into stereo a little bit. The reverb will thrust it into the stereo field, so that's pretty nice. And now, of course, we add reverb. I've got a 17.5 millisecond pre-delay. The damping is at about 40%. For this type of sound, I don't like a reverb any less than 2 seconds, so 2.3 seconds is okay. You can make it longer if you really want it washed out. Let's do 3 seconds. Yep. And a mix of just a hair above 50%. That's, mixed to taste, however you want it. And I'd dial the reverb back just a little bit myself, just because I want that core grittiness of the samples to shine through a bit more than I want the reverb to take over. Like that. That's really nice. So I would save this at this point, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And I did this earlier because foolishly I recorded a whole video where you couldn't see the sampler at all, so you had no idea what the fuck I was doing. But at the end of the initial video that I recorded, I actually opened the samples in Adobe Audition and used it to batch process them to lower their bit rates to 1600 hertz and 12-bit. Which adds to the grittiness of it. So the actual raw samples it's playing in Sample 1 are 1600 12-bit, which is nice, especially when you play sounds lower on the register. So this first sample here, is a F sharp, which isn't super low, but if you drop it sounds like fucking Satan's balls. Satan's balls. And sometimes that's exactly what you want. So here we are. We have a choir made of my voice recorded to a cassette player on a crappy Yudong Chinese cassette made sometime probably in the 2000s. I think these are fairly recent, but they're fucking garbage. But we've used that to our advantage here. So voice to tape, tape player into the microphone, into the computer, sliced up, tuned up, affected, and thrown into a sampler so that we get this wonderful sound. Right. Thanks for watching.
Satan's balls.